Hi and welcome to a new section, Copilot for JavaScript development. Well, the important requirements for this new section, a programming section, is first of all for you to have Node.js and npm installed. I won't show how to do this. I'm sure that you're more than capable to install them. And also you should have basic JavaScript or TypeScript knowledge. What we will do inside this section, we will see the assistance that we get from GitHub Copilot into a more complex or interesting coding project, the password checker. We will see how we can get assistance while we will write logic. We will see how we can generate tests with the help of GitHub Copilot. In the end, we will also see the specialized assistance that we get from TypeScript, and also we will see a practice session in which we will work with lists. Again, some interesting concepts that we will get, in which we will get assistance from GitHub Copilot, and you will see, we will have many moments of thinking, hey, can GitHub Copilot can do that? Yes, it can do that. Let's get started. Let's now see the way Copilot assists us at writing code with a simple example. And I'm inside an empty directory. I call this password checker because this will be the basic application we will be working on inside this course. So let's get started. First of all, we need a new file. I will create a new file and I will call this password checker.js. All right, this is our new file, and the GitHub Copilot shortcut is Ctrl+I, and I will not do this. I will just start to type my function. So here I'll say export function, and I will call this function check. And as you can see, Copilot already gives me some assistance, and it gives me a basic implementation of my code. I will say right here check password like this with a password. All right. And now VS Code will try to give me some basic implementation, and it will tell me that, hey, I will simply return true if the password length is greater than 8. Again, I don't want this implementation. I want to have, first of all, a type check of the password. So here I will say, and as you can see, now Copilot knows what I want. It knows that first of all I want to make a check, so I will accept this implementation. So if our password is not of type string, here it says return false, but I don't want to return false. I simply want to throw an error. So in case the password is invalid, I will simply throw an error. So here I'll say, and now Copilot already knows what I want. Again, it will tell me throw new error, password must be a string. I will accept this suggestion with tab. And now Copilot has a very good understanding about how I want to implement my function. So I simply don't want to return a Boolean value. Instead, I want to throw some errors depending on the wrong state of the password. So let's see if Copilot knows what I want to do next. I will simply press enter. All right, and it tells me that, hey, password length is less than 8, return false. Well, I will accept this, but I will adjust this a little. And now Copilot knows I want to throw a new error. I will accept this. Let's see the suggestion we get further on. And as you can see, now Copilot understood what I want as an implementation for my function. It will give me the next condition and it will throw a new error. So I will accept this. And I will simply now, it's simply a matter of accepting steps and, enter and tab. And now you can see Copilot gives me some suggestions regarding the matching, with the lowercase. Let's see, let's get a suggestion with an uppercase. That's great. And also let's add a number. All right, I will accept this, and also a special character. All right, that's great. And the reason Copilot was able to do this very fast is because this is a popular use case. So on one side, Copilot is a powerful tool, but on the other side, my use case was very basic and also a popular use case, in the Copilot training code base. Alright, this is our basic implementation. That's great. We have a check password which throws meaningful errors based on the wrong state of the password. What's cool about GitHub Copilot is that now I can also try to rewrite this function. Maybe I'm not happy with this implementation and I want a similar implementation, but maybe without the regular expressions. Let's see if Copilot knows this. And for sure Copilot knows this, but what I want, since I can simply tell Copilot, hey, rewrite this function, but I also want to keep this implementation, so I will simply use the good old copy and paste. So I will make a copy of this function and I will call this check password without regex. Alright, and now I will ask Copilot with Ctrl-I, rewrite the function without regular expressions. Let's see if Copilot is smart enough to do this. And yes, as you can see, it is. Well, and what's very nice when I try to ask the rewrite function right here, or to have small modifications to my code, is that I get a code diff view. Like, you know, this view is familiar when you are working with source control and you see what's new or what's changed inside the new file. This is also the view we get right here. I like this implementation, so I will accept it. And that's great. We also have a similar implementation, but without regular expressions. Let's test these implementations in the next lecture and see the assistance that we get from Copilot while writing tests. Before moving on to generate some tests for these functions, let's also use Copilot for some boring tasks like adding basic documentation. You know, this is a task I really don't like to do usually. Let's use GitHub Copilot, and I will use GitHub Copilot from the right click menu from VS Code. I will simply call generate docs for this function. I will get some nice docs right here. I will accept this, and the same for the other function. They should be similar because the logic is similar, even if the implementation is different. Alright, I will accept this. Now we have some professional looking documentation, you know, with this. And also what I will surely use a lot with GitHub Copilot is generate commit messages. So now I'm inside the VS Code source control view, and I will stage this change from the password checker, but I can simply say right here whip, you know, or stuff, you know, and I can add a more meaningful commit message only when I am finishing with this feature, but I can let GitHub Copilot do this for me, and this way I will have some more meaningful commit messages. Alright, this is not so meaningful, but it's better than whip or work or nothing. I will use this message, I will commit and synchronize my changes. Let's now really proceed to see the assistance that we get from Copilot at writing tests. In this lecture, we will see how GitHub Copilot assists us at writing tests, and it will be a fun journey. First of all, let's see what suggestions we get from GitHub Copilot. I have asked it what can I use to test JavaScript code, and it will give me some suggestions. Alright, and I've made this question to illustrate a very important point regarding GitHub Copilot, because it will give me the most popular frameworks for testing JavaScript, like Jest, like Mocha, like Jasmine, you know, but it won't tell me that lately Node has a building testing module itself, so I don't need an external library for this. And this not so popular option, this is what I will use inside this lecture, just to illustrate how GitHub Copilot handles against not so popular or obvious choices. I'm sure that it has a lot of examples with Jest and with Mocha and with Jasmine for testing, but I will want to write tests with the built-in Node testing module. You know, just because everybody will have it installed by default if you are using a more recent version of Node.js, and because lately I usually prefer Jest, but writing tests with a modern syntax is really a pain to configure. I will not do this inside this course. So I will try to write my tests. First of all, I will open my file and I have the option to generate tests. So right here, I will right click Copilot and I will go to the option to generate tests. And as you can see, you will see is not something perfect. Alright, this will simply create a new file inside my code. I will click create. Alright, and I will accept this. And now I have a new file inside my code base, which is called passwordchecker.test.js. It is like this, you know, and this is simply a testing option that usually uses the keywords for jest or for mockup, you know, the most popular ones, the describe, the it, the expect, you know. But as I said, I don't want to do this, or if I would want to run this, I will again ask Copilot, how can I install jest? I don't want to illustrate this right here. It will take a few precious minutes. You can do it on your own if you want. I want to use the built-in node module. So these tests are alright, but I want to use node test, you know, not the popular option. So I will delete everything except the import. Alright, and first of all, I will import what I want from node test. Import, alright, like this, and I want to import the describe and the test, and I will also import assert. You know, I can ask GitHub Copilot to write my tests, but it won't know exactly. It will give me a short starting of my function. Alright, this is the good start. I will close this parenthesis. Alright, let's see if now it knows what I want. Well, if it will offer again to write the whole function, I don't want this because I want a system under test. So here I'll say system under test is my check password. All right, and now I want to test the first implementation. Test, and I guess this is working, or this is a valid test case. This is also important and a good practice. Always start with a simple message to see, or a simple test to see if your test setup is working. Well, we don't have any test setup right here, so I will first initialize an npm project right here. I will call npm init-y. Of course, I could have asked GitHub Copilot to do this, and right here I will add a testing message right here. I will say node ---- test, and this should be all right. Let's see if this is working. I will clear this and call npm test. All right, and we have an error because it says that we cannot use import statement outside of a module, the good old JavaScript error. Well, of course, let's ask GitHub Copilot what's the error right here. And I told it that I'm getting this error while running my code. Let's see. All right, and I guess at some point, yes, the message is meaningful. You know, this is the reason, and it will give me also a suggestion to add this type module in the script tag. And right here, I will add this type. I will add this as a module, and this should fix the problem. All right, again, I have a problem. You know, this means that you also need to have some experience with JavaScript. The problem right here is that I need to make this import specifically from a JavaScript function, from a JavaScript file. And finally, with this change, the tests worked just fine. Let's proceed into the next lecture and see how we can extend these tests with GitHub Copilot. Let's extend this testing suite, or better said, let's create new tests for all the outcomes of our check password dump function. And let's first of all, I'm not happy with this test implementation because it will check if the test throws an error, but it doesn't check for the error message, and this test should check for the error message. It will have the same outcome if we are passing a different or a wrong password. So I want a new test which also checks for the error message. Let's see if GitHub Copilot is smart enough to do this. And I will say right here, I will create a new test function and I will say the test description throws an error if password is not a string and checks for the error message. Let's see if Copilot is smart enough to do this, and yes, it gives us a nice solution. Now it will tell us that it will make this check not with the error type but with a new error. Password must be a string. Also, we can directly make this into a message, constructor. So I think the better way to do this is to also have a point right here in which I can specify for the message like this. And this test is more meaningful. Now again, we've shown GitHub Copilot the basic structure of a test which concerns us. So I've given some meaningful context to GitHub Copilot about the structure I want for my tests. Let me also format this file a little. And now if I will simply click on enter, GitHub Copilot will give me again a meaningful test. Again, I'm not happy with the way we are testing for the message. So right here I will specify I want a message. And yes, the password must be at least 8 characters. Let's see if GitHub Copilot knows that I want a test with a message. All right. And yes, it now will give me a test with a meaningful message. We can move on and move on. And from this point is simply a matter of enter and tab. And sometimes these tabs doesn't work, as it's the case for me. Yes, I need to also do some typing. Sorry, my job is still secure. Yes, I want this implementation. Let me give me the assert. Yes, I'm happy with this. All right. I also have the use case for a lowercase, for an uppercase letter. And finally, we should have a use case for the special character or a number. All right. We also have this number, and let's see the special character. Yes. All right. Let's see if these tests that are generated are working. All right, they are working all just fine. I'm really happy with this implementation. But now the problem is that my manager has a problem with my implementation, with the special characters implementation, and says that our passwords shouldn't contain the exclamation mark. Just as a requirement for my function. And again, we will, dive sideways in the implementation, in the standard implementation, and see how GitHub Copilot knows what we want. All right, so inside our password checker, now that we have some tests, we are able to write a new implementation which doesn't accept special characters right here. So I want to change this regular expression to also not accept the exclamation mark. So I will simply, let's see if GitHub Copilot knows this. I don't know exactly how it will do this because it is not deterministic. I will start inline chat, and I will say right here, rewrite this to not accept the exclamation mark. Let's see if it knows what I mean. No, it doesn't. All right, still it understood what I want, but again, it just rewrites the regular expression, so I don't want this. So let's give it one more try with a more meaningful message for GitHub Copilot. So I'll simply select the regular expression and I will call GitHub Copilot. And finally, when I used a very meaningful message for GitHub Copilot, I told it to rewrite the expression to check for special characters and not accept the exclamation mark character. In the end, it knew what I wanted. As you can see, the change was really small, but finally it knew what I wanted when I made the more clear prompt. I will accept this change, and now also comes the other fine part about this, because we want now to test this, and if I want tests right here, let's say if it will know what I mean. All right, and this is funny because it will give me a test for it does not throw an error if password meets all criteria, but this is the exact condition which I didn't want it. So I know my code base, I can simply rewrite this test right here with a different special character, and I also can write a test myself again with the condition that I want. So throws an error if a password contains. Alright, let me delete this and let's see if it will be able to generate the test. Yes, it is able to generate the test. You know, this is the right implementation. Let's see if everything is alright. And yes, all the tests are passing. So we saw in this lecture a more advanced prompting to GitHub Copilot, and we saw that yes, it gives us great assistance at writing tests, at writing lots of code, but in the same time it is our job to really understand and master that code. Let's see some further assistance from GitHub Copilot, especially from the GitHub Copilot chat functionality. Well, and let's say that we want to add TypeScript or another library inside our project. And I'm really new. I mean, I want to transition to TypeScript. I don't know exactly how to do this. So again, I can simply ask GitHub Copilot. Let me first clear this dialog and ask. I have asked it, how can I add TypeScript to my project? All right, and it gave me the full responses. And it gave me step by step what exactly I need to do. First of all, the first step we did before, we already have a node project inside our project, and then it tells us that we have to install npm, call npm install TypeScript, and then to create a tsconfig file. Well, what's also cool about this is that I can simply use this. At the end I have this review or summary of the commands which I need. Let's say that I only have to run this npm install save dev TypeScript. So I will insert this into terminal. All right, it won't install this. I will simply copy this and only use this right here. I will paste this and wait a few moments while TypeScript installs. All right, it installed TypeScript, and also we can call npx tsc init. I will simply only call this and I will copy and paste it in the terminal. And this will create a few files inside our project. But as you can see in the source control entry, we have a lot of changed files because this node modules entry is not added to any git ignore. Well, again, I will show you the solution that GitHub Copilot gives us right here. I have asked it what should be contained in the .gitignore file for my project. Let's see what it needs. Alright, it knows that it should contain the node modules folder. Let's wait a little. And it gave me an example for a gitignore file for a Node.js project. Alright. And let me create this by hand, and then we will insert this with the GitHub Copilot chat. So here I will create a new file and I will call this .gitignore. Alright, I have opened this, and now I can simply go to the chat view right here and insert it at cursor point right here. The cursor is right here. I can simply call insert at cursor, and it will simply insert all this containing part of the suggestion right here in my file. If I save this simply, then my source control view will be a lot nicer. All right, let me commit this again. Let Copilot generate a meaningful message for us. That's great. I will commit and sync our changes. So we saw in this lecture some other ways GitHub Copilot chat assists us at a JavaScript project. Let's now see how GitHub Copilot assists us with TypeScript, and there are a few nice suggestions that it can give us. For example, I can have a constant. Let's say that I'm writing a simple test to test my types. I say right here const John, and as you can see, GitHub Copilot will start to give me some suggestions since I'm in a file called employee.ts. Well, let me make this an object. I won't accept this. And as soon as I'm trying to build an object, again, you can see how GitHub Copilot gives us some great suggestions. I will accept this. All right, and we can simply move on, and we can accept new suggestions right here. For example, it would give us a suggestion for an address. Maybe I want also a suggestion for a different address. Let me say right here, work address, and let's say if it will give it in the same structure as before. Yes, it will give me in the string structure. That's great. And maybe I want a different city right here. And as you can see, it knows by default, it knows the city is from India. Let's say that the work address is in New Delhi. That's great enough for me. Let me also add further fields to my object. Yes, a salary. I don't want a bonus, but maybe I want an email. You know, the emails are always specific, so it didn't give me a suggestion, but it can further on give me suggestions like this. A phone, you know, maybe some hobbies. You know, we give me some hobbies, and further on let's also give him a getName function. Alright, and it will return us the name. Nothing fancy until now, nothing that we can do also ourselves, maybe not so fast, but still nothing spectacular. What I really like about GitHub Copilot is that now we can also generate a type from this object. So if I will select this and invoke GitHub Copilot with Ctrl I can say right here, generate a type for this object. Alright, and yes, it generated the right type. I will accept this new type, and now I have a cool type for my employee. It even added the type annotation for my constant. That's great. And we can again take things to the next level. Let's specify a type for a strict email string. Let's say that I want to generate a type literal for my email string, but I don't really remember how the type literals work in TypeScript. I can simply ask GitHub Copilot. Also, I can instruct it by using commands, or I can simply say right here, generate a type, a template literal type for company emails or for emails. Let's see if it's smart enough to know. And yes, as you can see, now it will know exactly what I want. It even generated the right type for me. We know we have a string at another string dot another string, and it generated the type, and it also replaced the type inside our older type. I will accept this. This is great. And now let's see if it's smart enough to find problems inside our code. Let's say that we have a typo right here. And now we will have a problem inside our code because it will tell us that this is not matching the type that we are doing. Let's see if GitHub Copilot will assist us with this. So I will try to fix using Copilot. Let's see if it is smart enough to fix it. Yes, of course, it is smart enough, and it knows that we are missing the @ symbol right here. I will accept this solution, and everything is alright. Again, we saw in this lecture an introduction to the assistance that we get from GitHub Copilot for TypeScript types. Let's now make another exercise with JavaScript and TypeScript and see the assistance that we get from Copilot while working with lists, and I will tell you it will be fun. First, for this I will first create a new file. I will call it just data.ts, simple as that. Let's start with a basic structure of our data that we want. I will use an employee, good old employee data. I will say right here, interface employee, like this, just like we did before, but let's add some basic data right here. Well, I want a name, I want a age, and I want a salary, which are the age and the salary are numbers. Very nice. All right, like this. What's the problem? The problem is that we already have another, no problem. I will say right here, export interface employee. That's great. Now let's create a simple sample data of employees, and I will say right here const employees of type employee, already GitHub Copilot knows that I want a list of employees. All right, I will close these parentheses and let's see if it will give me some sample employees. That's great. It gave me some sample employees. I will accept this. All right. And now that we have some sample employees, things can get very interesting. And also, you know, when writing tests or data to test my code, it is always complicated to have some sample data. There are libraries, you know, which generate data, but now we have GitHub Copilot. That's great. Now let's implement some functions. Let's say that we have a list of employees. These are like this. And let's now start to work with this list and create some functions that access this data. And you will see GitHub Copilot already kind of knows what we want. For example, I will say right here function get by name. All right. And already GitHub Copilot knows what I want, or somewhat knows what I want. Or better said, I will say right here, better naming would be find employee by name, like this. All right, and it gave me the exact implementation. It will use the find method of arrays. What happens if, for example, I'm not careful right here and I have this error? I will say right here, find employee, find by name, and this returns an employee. Well, I have an error right here. Let's see if GitHub Copilot is smart enough to know what the error is. It should be. I will say right here, quick fix using Copilot. And yes, that's what I wanted to point out. It gives us some bad solution to this, because it will tell us that, hey, we can simply return this or do a cast as employee like this. This is a very bad solution. I will discard this. Well, the problem is with the function signature right here, because we can return an employee or we can return undefined if, of course, no employees are found. One solution to this would be to, first of all, generate some documentation right here. And I will say, please generate me some documentation. All right. And now let's try to quick fix this again. Yes, still points out to use the as keyword. I don't want that. Let's give it one more chance right here. Let me save the function, the whole function, the selected, and ask. I told it fix the error without using the as keyword. Let's see if it understood what I want. All right, and finally it understood what I want. It will update my return type to be employee or undefined. Finally, it knew. All right, and it fixed our error. Very nice. Let's try to write an implementation that will return a list of employees which have a bigger salary than an argument that we want to pass. So here I'll say function. I will say right here, filter employees by age, filter, but I want by, let me delete this, by salary. All right. And again, GitHub Copilot is already smart enough to know that it must use the filter method of array, and it write me the right implementation to do this. This will return all the employees which have a salary bigger than the argument we are passing by. Again, we can take things to the next level. I will say right here, function filter employees by age and salary. Let's see if it knows it like this. It should know it. All right. And basically this is the implementation. It will return back all the employees which have a age bigger than our argument and a salary bigger than our argument. That's great. Also, let's see if it knows to return all the names of our employees. So here I'll say function get all employees names. All right, and it really knew what I wanted, and it knew that for this the easiest solution would be to use the map function for JavaScript. Let's see if it knows how to use the reduce function. So here I'll say function get max salary. Let's see if it knows. All right, and it somehow did it, but I want to use the reduce function. Let's see if it knows implement with reduce. Let's say if it knows like this. All right, and I don't like this in one line. Let's see if it knows it. All right, finally understood what I wanted. Even if this isn't the cleanest code or the easiest to read, it did it in one line, and this way it returns as the max salary of our employees. Let's see if now it knows how to use the same syntax in order to maybe return the average salary. So here I'll say function get average salary, and yes, it knows to use a similar approach with the reduce function, and this way it will give us the average salary. Well, we saw a few ways in which we can use array functions in TypeScript and JavaScript with the assistance of GitHub Copilot. Maybe a nice project for you would be to write your own data structure and your own functions, and then with the assistance of GitHub Copilot write some tests.